Hi, I'm Melanie Ann Phillips, and welcome to another one of my tips for writers. I'm the creator of the StoryWeaver's story development software and co-creator of the Dramatica theory of story structure, which came out 30 years ago and has since been used by hundreds of thousands of writers around the world, including Pulitzer Prize winner, New York Times bestsellers, and Academy Award winners. Okay, enough of that. Down below, you'll find links to all kinds of good things for writers in the description area. Let's get on with it. I'm going to read you this article I wrote several years ago on how to find your creative time so that you can, in fact, be more productive and have a wonderful time doing your writing instead of finding it to be a drudge. Well, let me switch over to that article here, and let's get going. You sit in your favorite writing chair by the window or on the porch in the study. You wear your favorite tweed jacket with the leather elbow patches, or your blue jeans, or your creative shoes. You look around at the carefully crafted environment you spent months arranging to trigger your inspiration. Reaching eagerly forward, you place your hands on the keyboard or grasp the pen and pencil, and nothing happens. You look around the room again, out the window, sip your coffee, cross or uncross your legs, finger your lucky charm, reach forward, and still nothing. What in blazes is wrong? You know you're full of inspiration. You can feel it. Why, the ideas were flowing like a deluge just this morning, last night, or yesterday. Frustrated, yet determined, you try several more times to get the words to flow, but to no avail. Good pen name, you think. No avail. So what's the problem? How can you feel all primed to write, sit in your favorite environment with everything just perfect, and still nothing comes? Well, perhaps the problem is not where you're trying to write, but when. Each of us has a creative time of day and a logistic time of day. Never heard of this? Well, I didn't discover it until quite recently myself. As a writer, I always thought creativity came and went with the muse, sometimes bringing inspiration and sometimes spiriting it away. Like most writers, I had found that creating a quiet refuge, a creative sanctuary, increased the frequency and intensity of visits from the muse. What I didn't know was that the muse keeps a schedule. She actually comes and goes like clockwork. It's my creative environment, my studio. Here's my scenario, and see how it might apply to you. I've always felt guilty when I write. Guilty that I'm not out cleaning something, building something, visiting someone, or even just getting out into the real world and living a little. But writing always draws me back. I find it therapeutic, cathartic, invigorating, stimulating, and, well, just plain fun. Sometimes, no, make that all the time. It's as good as, no, make that better than sex and food and earning a living. I often feel when writing like that rat with a wire connected to his pleasure center who keeps pushing the stimulation button until it's starved to death because it forgot to eat. Well, the urge to write is there all the time, but because I feel guilty, I try to get all my chores done in the morning, clearing the way to spend the afternoon or evening writing guilt-free. But then I sit there watching the sun go down, full of desire to write, but completely unable to do so. Recently, however, I had the good fortune of actually finishing all my chores the night before. I found myself with a whole morning free and guilt-free as well. At first, I was just going to goof off, do some reading, watch some TV, but then that old writing bug took a nip out of my soul, and off I was to my study to pound the keys. And you know what? The words just spilled out like secrets from the town gossip. That was wonderful. What an experience. I was pelting out the thoughts without the least guilt and without the slightest hesitation. I was flying through my own mind and playing it out on the keys. Felt very much like when I play music. Well, why was this happening? I was truly afraid the feeling would go away as quickly as it came, and I'd be lost in the creative doldrums again. In fact, it did fade with time, but abruptly. Not abruptly. I'm sorry, I need more coffee. Let's make the point correctly. It did leave in time, not abruptly, but gradually, and forgive the airplane as well, slipping away until it was no more. But it did not leave a vacuum. In its place was a rising motivation to clean something, build something, visit someone, or get out there in the real world and live as before. And then it hit me. Perhaps my creativity does not spring from where I write, but when. Perhaps the morning is my creative time, and the afternoon my practical time. I experimented. Try to write in the afternoon, the evening, at night, the morning. Quickly I discovered that if I felt free from guilt of non-practical activity, I could write in the morning as if I were designed to do nothing else. But no matter how many chores I might accomplish in the morning, by the time the sun dropped below the horizon, my inspiration dropped away as well. In fact, my creative time is tied to the sun. It may not be true for you, but we'll get to that in a minute. For me, it brightens in the morning, it peaks around noon, and fades away to nothing at the dark. Interestingly, I recently moved to the mountains, and dusk comes early here in the canyon this time of year, far earlier than when I lived down in the flatlands of the city. Looking back over the years, I could see that my daily creative cycle depended on the direct rays of the sun, not the time of day. And all those years I tried to get the practical stuff done in the morning to avoid guilt didn't help my creativity, but hindered it, because I was using up my best time. Lately, I just know that when the sun goes down, it's time to get practical, and as a result, I know in the morning that I'll accomplish real-world logistic things later in the day. And that eliminates the guilt because the work part's already scheduled. Doesn't have to be done, just scheduled. And that frees my mind? More coffee! And that frees my mind. To play with words all morning long. When is your creative time? Let's get down to it now. Just being a morning person or a night person, afternoon, evening, it isn't enough because that only determines when you have the most energy. But what kind of energy? Perhaps you're more energetic when you're working on the practical. So you think that just because you get your greatest energy at night, you're a night person. Well, it's not necessarily so. Suppose your creative side is never the most energetic part of you, but is strongest in the morning. Think about that. Your creative side is never the most energetic part of you. But there is a time of day in which it might be the strongest, like the morning. Then you're a practical night person and a creative morning person because that's when you can get the most out of your creativity, even if you'd be more energetic doing something else. Your creative time might be any span of hours of the day, or it might even be more than one time. For example, you might be most inspired in mid-morning until noon, and then again from mid-afternoon to dusk. Everybody's a bit different. The key is to find your creative time and then adjust your daily schedule to fit it. It is important to remember to avoid guilt feelings while trying to determine your creative time, while you're trying to figure it out. To do this, don't just focus on when you're going to be writing, but also try to schedule other time to concentrate on other chores. This way, your reading of the level of your creativity will not be tainted by negative feelings of guilt, and you should arrive at a more accurate appraisal. After a week or so of trying different combinations, you should, and there's more here, it's not just about time of day, but let's get there. After a week or so of trying different combinations, you should be able to determine the best creative and most practical times of the day. From that point forward, you will almost certainly find inspiration is present more than it's absent, and writing becomes far more joyful as a process and less work once you know when's the best time to do it. But there's a little bit more. Our lives are not just creative or practical. In fact, there are 4 principal emotions that drive our days: creative, practical, reflective, and social. Creative, practical, reflective, and social. We need a reflective time to be alone, to mull the events of our lives over our mind's eye, to let our thoughts wander where they will, to daydream. We need our social time to recharge our batteries in the company of others, even if it's online, to express ourselves to our friends, to defocus from our own subjective view by standing in the shoes of those around us. I've found for myself that Saturday is a social day for me, and Sunday is a reflective day. I don't do much of either of these on the weekdays at all. Whether this is nurture, nature, or something else altogether, I can't say, and to be truthful, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that I've come to recognize it. When is your reflective time? Do you have some every day? Just on weekdays? Only on weekends? Or some combination of these? How about your social time? Do you feel guilty wanting to be alone? Do you ever feel deprived because you are alone? Part of these feelings may come from trying to do each of these activities in times that, for you, are actually geared toward something else. Misusing your time. Once you've mapped out your creative, practical, and reflective social cycles, you'll find that you get so much more accomplished with so much more fulfillment, and all 4 aspects of your life will improve. And the improvement in each will remove emotional burdens, one last coffee, emotional burdens, and therefore increase the energy in each of the other 3. In short, you can be in phase with your emotional cycles or out of phase. The more you schedule your activities to match the flow of your feelings, the more life experience will glad this is near the end. The more your life experience will buoy itself higher and higher with less and less effort, and best of all, the more inspiration you'll find when you sit down in your tweed jacket and reach for the keyboard. And that's where the article ends. I'll give you a little more for all those of you hardy or brave enough, or well, I won't say anything negative, to last this long. think about seasonal changes. I find that I write better at certain seasons of the year. I mean, particularly in the fall, I like to be reflective and write about things from my past. In the summertime, I like to write new ideas. So what I'm writing may depend upon a season, and also the kind of material, and maybe there's just a time of year that I like to do. Sometimes certain holidays, I find that I'm very inspired after a particular holiday, or a major event in life, or when something happens that's unpredictable. But I'll give you one last key. If you keep a log of when you find yourself writing most effectively, then you can go back after a period of time and begin to see patterns in that log. And some of them may be associated with normal biorhythm waves. Some of them may be associated with particular days of the week or particular times of day. But after a few weeks of just keeping a log of when you find yourself most inspired to write and having the best time doing it, you'll be able to look at that, analyze that, and find some of these cycles so that you can tune in to your best and most effective and most enjoyable writing time. That's it. Again, look down below in the description. You'll find all kinds of good stuff for writers, a bunch of them free, plus links to the software that I've created. And we'll see you next time. Until then, may the muse be with you.